My name's Sam Komlenik. I am a Pennsylvania distillery historian. We are here at Stolen Wolf Distillery in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County. And it's my privilege this morning to do an informal interview with Dick Stoll. Dick was the last master distiller at Pennsylvania Michter's in Schaefferstown. He closed the distillery in 1990 and had worked there for a number of years prior to that, and that's going to be the focus of our conversation. So, without further ado, Dick Stoll.
Thank you.
Morning, Dick.
It's a pleasure meeting you again after all these years.
And we do have a history, as it turns out. We'll
Yes.
talk about that at some point too. But let me back up. Where were you born?
Lebanon, Pennsylvania,
Okay, so you're Lebanon County native. And when were you born?
1933. Remember?
1933. You're a repeal baby.
Yes.
So liquor came back. That's sort of prophetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Liquor came back. The year
I told it had to.
So you spent your, it's my impression you spent your younger life outdoors. You spent most of your older life outdoors.
Well,
You
that's all we had.
hunting and
back in
fishing
those
and
days.
trapping. And Eric was telling us today about you telling his daughter about all the animals you trapped and killed. And
I just got a groundhog the other day.
that's what I heard. That was the story. That was the
He had to
story.
stay out of the garden. He wouldn't do it, so sorry, young fella. You gotta go.
So you ended up in the Navy.
Yeah.
What took you to the Navy?
My brother joined the Navy. He's 11 months older than I am. About 5 months before I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I graduated, I joined the Navy. I wanted to be in with him.
Mm-hmm.
And after I got in, I found out they don't put brothers together anymore. Since
Right, since the Sullivans, yeah.
So I went into aviation. I went to Florida for aviation school. Then I went to Nashville, Tennessee for aviation instructional mechanic school.
Interesting. I didn't know they had that in Tennessee.
And then from there, I went down to Norfolk, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
to the Naval Air Station there.
Yeah.
Got into a squadron there, and they were looking for combat air crewmen. So I joined them because I got $50 extra a month, and that was a lot of money back then. And
That was a lot of whiskey back then.
Yeah. And I stayed in there. I was 17 at the time, so I went on what they call a kiddie cruise. You're supposed to get out the day before you turn 21.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Korean War was over in 53. In 1954, they left me out 3 months before my time because they no longer needed me. And I came out from there. I went to work construction because there wasn't any work really.
So you came back to Lebanon County?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked a couple months, digging ditches or whatever. And then I did a lot of hunting that winter. Come spring.
Did you eat good?
Yeah.
Okay, then you did all right hunting.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
We always had venison.
Yeah.
In the spring of 1954, I got a call from the unemployment office to go to distillery.
Which was then Penco.
It
Or was that
wasn't even Penco.
was that
then.
Kirk Falk?
It was Kirk. It was right in the middle of Kirk Falk turning over Penco.
Okay.
And they gave me the address of Newmanstown. Well, I went to Newmanstown. They don't even know on the bottom.
This is
Distillery there. So I finally found it, and I started working there, digging ditches.
I was just going to say, what was your
Digging
primary
ditches.
duties?
There was 3 of us there. We were putting a foundation in for the new building that they were putting up. We did that for a couple of weeks, and then they kept me on, got rid of the other 2 guys because they weren't too good diggers.
I was in construction for years, and when I started, I dug footers. I dug ditches.
Yep.
And it started to irk me because that's all they had me doing. They called me the human backhoe. My wife will testify to this. The construction boss called me the human backhoe, and I was so good at it, that's what they made me do until I got so mad I quit and moved on. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be a pretty good digger. Now,
Distillery.
talk about Kirk Falk and how he came into the picture. I know we've had this conversation before. He was a local guy.
He was from Lancaster,
Okay,
and he had a farm there, and he got into
near the distillery.
yeah,
Yeah.
right
At-
adjacent to
okay.
the distillery. In
All right.
fact, we pumped our slop up to him
Yeah.
to feed his animals,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also in the refuge business.
Okay. What goes around comes around, huh?
Yeah, basically.
We'll talk about what I mean there too
Yeah.
in a few minutes.
And from what I understand, Lou Foreman got him to buy the distillery in 1949.
Now, Lou Foreman was the founder of the Michter's concept.
Yeah,
Okay.
because his two sons were named Michael and Peter.
And when you put it together, it sounded just Amish enough to
Be
be
Michter's.
Michter's. Yeah.
Then we started getting barrels in from Continental.
Let me back you up. Why do you think Lou wanted Kirk to buy that distillery?
Because Lou didn't have the money.
So, and he knew that Kirk did and might have an interest.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it did. It became Kirk's Pure Rye Distilling
I
Company or
have
something.
a barrel head of his at home with Kirk's Pure Rye.
Yeah.
Brass.
Stencil.
Used back
Yeah.
stencil in
Mhm.
them days. And
So now you're working for Kirk's Pure Rye Distilling Company.
well, it was just turned over to Penco.
And who was Penco?
They were an outfit out of Philadelphia area.
Okay.
Uh,
Did they have ties to Continental? You
They
talked
were-
about
they
Continental
were-
Barrel.
they
And
were
Continental, for
Continental.
those of you who don't know, was one of the last surviving distilleries in Pennsylvania. It was a major distillery in Philadelphia, like in the city.
yeah.
I remember as a kid coming across that bridge and looking over, and there was the old Hickory logo on, I don't know if it was a building or a tank or whatever, but I remember exactly where it was on the river. So anyway, now you're working for Penco, these people that
Yeah.
are based out of Philadelphia.
Sam Glass was the president of Penco.
Okay.
He was a big deal in the Continental Distillery.
Mm-hmm.
And his brother-in-law,
Lou Foreman.
Lou Foreman. yeah.
Okay.
And Lou did mainly going around to different places and getting business for us to make whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Now, was the Michter's brand in existence at that time?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So
It
he's
wasn't- it
selling
wasn't big.
Penco whiskey.
Yeah.
He's getting orders for Penco produced whiskey. And those were a bunch of smaller labels at the time, weren't they? You had
Yeah.
the old Vandegrift and
Yeah.
stuff like that were absorbed from other distilleries over the years.
We did our own bottling,
Mm-hmm.
Penco Rye, and you know.
So there were actually Penco branded products.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw you a curve at you here. I have a record of Pennsylvania distilleries from wartime. It's a list of industrial alcohol producers, and they have a listing for the Pendale Distilling Company.
That
And
was Penco.
I've seen that, right. So that name was kind of interchangeable,
Yeah.
Pendale and
Yeah.
Penco.
And I think, as far back as I can remember, Shenley owned it at that time when they were making alcohol for the war.
Oh, okay.
And then they moved out. After I was there about maybe 3 months, I lost my finger.
Oh, it was that early on.
Barrels in from
Hold her up. Hold her up.
getting barrels in from Continental.
And you've actually caught me off guard making jokes about that. Remember when I cut a steak for you and you said, "Oh, geez, look what you did." He holds
Yeah.
up his hand and says, "Look what you did."
So I went to work just doing odds and ends, and then when we started the distillery up,
So the distillery had been silent for a while.
yes,
And what time period do you think that was?
From 49 to 52.
Okay.
And then it sat until 54 till we started it up. And then I took over as the head of the barrel crew.
All right.
In the cistern room, we filled the barrels, cut the whiskey, fill the barrels,
Yeah.
take it to the warehouse, put them away.
Mm-hmm.
I had a mechanical background, being, in the Navy. And I wanted to get on with the crew on the maintenance.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Now, how many
maintenance,
people would you say worked there at this time
there was
when they restarted?
maybe a dozen.
Okay.
And there was 2 people on the maintenance.
Is that a
Nope.
single shift? Is that a single shift operation?
Yeah, basically until you got called out for other duties
Yeah,
that had to be done,
okay.
whenever. And it was, when we operated, it was 6 days a week.
We were at the distillery. It's Penco. You're working 6 days a week, and you had been on the barrel crew, and you wanted to be on maintenance.
Yes, and the one maintenance guy left, and they took me on.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Cross was the head of maintenance at the time. Very good man, very good. Did a lot of work for Penco. He did most of their whiskey, getting it ready for bottling.
Mm-hmm.
He was the head of the bottling crew when we did bottle.
So maintenance was in charge of that stuff too.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting.
in charge of everything, basically.
Yeah, right.
And then in 55, I guess I met Everett Bean. He came there as a master distiller.
And where did he come from Kentucky at the time?
Yes,
So he was hired by Penco.
yes.
All right.
He originally was hired by Kirk Folk. He was the
Okay.
master distiller there during that time.
And then he left during
Then he left.
Okay.
And then he came back for Penco.
Okay.
And that's when
So he must have liked the job and the area. So what
Yeah.
time frame are we talking about here?
56 to 60.
Okay, so this is still not long after you started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I can remember we celebrated making our 100,000th barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And they had
Around that time.
that was 1960, I think. Something
Yeah.
like that. They had a local station come out and take pictures. Then Everett Beam got me to learn every job in the plant in case somebody got drunk and didn't show up. I did their job.
Okay.
And that's how I learned.
So he really did oversee the entire distillery operations,
Yeah, as
like
far
a
as making-
like a master distiller did back then.
Yeah. And then,
And that title didn't even exist, did it? Master distiller.
yeah,
He was referred to. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And then, like I say, I did most of the jobs in the plant, well, all the jobs in the plant.
Over
One
time,
or another,
sure.
Yeah. And he and I got along well. We did the hunting and fishing together. And
Mm-hmm.
then in
He was older than you.
Oh yeah, yeah. He
Now nobody's older than you.
hardly, hardly. In 1972, he had a heart attack and then he left.
Mm-hmm.
And Lou Foreman came to me and asked me if I would take over as master distiller because I knew, the business.
Yeah.
So I agreed to it. He also wanted me to be plant manager and head of maintenance, all 3 jobs. Well, this didn't go over too well.
Yeah.
So I finally told him, you get George Shadows back, who was the head of the distillery, as taking care of everything.
I met George.
Yeah, he took care of everything,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you gotta get him back. He had left and was working at his uncle's place. I think it was they dealt with scrap iron and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want to go there, but he had to. They got rid of him
Yeah.
when the place went down. And then finally Lou got him back.
And he was there till the end.
He was